Okay, and so today we're going to continue on looking at how we factorize. But this time we're going to look at factorizing quadratics. Okay, so quadratics, remember that we said quad is like a square, isn't it? So quadratics always involve something that has a squared, like x squared or a squared or n squared. But the particular type of quadratics we're going to look at today, well, they are quadratic trinomials. Okay, quadratic trinomials. Now, what does tri look like? It looks like 3, doesn't it? Okay, so 3, and nomials, it means it has 3 terms. Okay, now we've already said because of quad, something squared. Okay, isn't that right? So we know that that is like x squared, for example. But we need to have 3 terms. So we're used to now maybe seeing something that has another x term, maybe for example, or plus x, and then plus any other number. We call that number a constant. Okay? So basically it's a squared term, any kind of variable, and then any constant, any number on its own. So it could be like, for example, it could be plus 3, or it could be minus 2, any constant. Okay? So a variable is any number, isn't it? Or any term that has an x in it, or an a, or an n, or anything. So it could be, we've seen some terms, didn't we, that had 2x maybe, or minus 3x, or whatever it is. So a squared term, a variable, and a constant. Okay? So quadratic trinomials means 3 terms, basically. Here in this question, we're asked to factorize fully x squared plus 11x plus 24. So the first thing we see is actually it's 3 terms. Something squared, a variable, and a constant, a number on its own. So it's a quadratic trinomial. So we know we're going to have a new kind of method for it. Now, before we've used a certain kind of method when we've been expanding brackets. We used the box method. And similarly, we can use a box method to factorize. Okay? So I'm just going to have a look and see just a reminder of the box method when it came to expanding brackets. So we're going to have a quick look again just at one of the expanding bracket questions we would have done. So we would have done something maybe that might have been x minus 2 bracket x plus 3. And so we would just very quickly, wouldn't we? We would have written x minus 2 along the top. Then along the side we'd have had our x plus 3. So then what would I have done here? Well, in the very first quadrant I would have said x multiplied by x. That gives me x squared. Here in this quadrant, that's x multiplied by minus 2, which gives me minus 2x. Here in the third quadrant, down here, I have plus 3 multiplied by x, so that gives me plus 3x. And here in this final quadrant, I have plus 3 multiplied by minus 2. So we know a plus by a minus is a minus, and 3 by 2 is 6. And so then I would just tidy that up, and so I'd have that's x squared minus 2x plus 3x minus 6. And then I'd say, well, I know that that's x squared and minus 2x plus 3x. Well, that's different signs, so I subtract. 3x take away 2x leaves me with x. And I keep the sign of the bigger number, which is the 3 this time, which is positive. So I have x squared plus x minus 6, and that would have been my answer. Now, in the example that we saw the last time, we're asked to start off here and to work back to something like this. Okay? So factorizing the reverse of expanding. And we're going to use similar to the box method, but we're just going to draw our box maybe a different bit of shape, but it's a similar kind of method. So this time I want to figure out what are these bits going to be. Okay? Okay, and so just before we return to our example, we just want to be very sure about quadratic trinomials. So like we said, 3 terms, because tri, so it's the x squared term, an x term on its own, so like plus 2x, and then a constant, which again, just as we remember, is a number on its own, okay? And then just very quickly, if we remember from what we've just done in our box method, you can go back and have a quick look. The other way that we would say is that it's x squared, that bit's fine, that stays the same, our quad, and we could have here plus or minus, and we could call that the sum of x, okay? Because the sum means plus or minus, doesn't it? Okay, so the sum of, and here it could be plus or minus the product, because as we saw before, it was always the product multiplying the two terms that gave us the sum of x, okay? Or multiplying the factors of here, the factors of this product that gave us the sum. So if we had, like in the last example, we had 6 and the factors of 6 were 2 and 3, and they were what gave us the end result here. Okay, so now we're going to take that and we're going to look at our box method. Okay, so here's our box method. This is the way it's going to look like. So we have 4 boxes, so one at the top, another one at the bottom, and then 2 here in the middle. Now the one here at the top, well, that says product, doesn't it? And the other says sum. Okay, we've said here this is the product and this is the sum of x. This the term with the variable, that's what we want to get the sum of. And what was it always? It was always to do with the factors of this number. So here we want to find factors of 24 that will sum to give us this term here. That's essentially what we're looking for. So here I would write in my factor. So here I'm going to have the product, it will always be in the top, the sum at the bottom, and in here are going to be the factors of that product that will sum to give me this term here. Okay, the term with the variable. Okay, so we're going to have a look here first. So I'm going to do out a blank box for myself, but I'm going to keep this box here, the one that I already have, over to the side. Why? Just as a reminder of what way I'm going to fill in. Okay? Okay, so up here then, what do we have? We have the sum, we have the product. Okay, so up here, our first box, well, that's looking for the product. So I'm going to write in here, I'm going to write in the product. So I'm going to write in my 24. And then over here, the sum, well, that's 11. So that's what I'm going to write in at the end. Okay? Now, if we look at our box here, it says we're looking here for factors. And what are we looking for factors of? We're looking for factors of 24. Okay? So over here, I'm just going to list all the factors of 24. Well, I'd have 1 multiplied by 24 gives me 24, isn't that right? 1 by 24. What else gives me 24? Well, 2 by 12, 3 by 8, and 4 by 6. Now, they're all my factors of 24. Okay? Now, I'm going to have a look at these sets of factors, and I'm going to see, well, which ones of those, if I add together or subtract from each other, depending on signs, but we'll come back to that in a moment. Is there any ones of these that would add together to give me the sum, to give me 11, what I'm looking for here? Well, 1 and 24, no, that gives me 25. 2 and 12, no, that gives me 14. 3 and 8, that gives me 11. So they're the ones that I am going to write in here, 3 and 8. Okay, and so then down here, that's what I'm going to put with my x. So each of my x's, because I know the factors of x squared, that's x. So here, very quickly, I tidied up and I say my factors of that are going to be x plus 3 and x plus 8. Now, why did I know that they were both pluses? I knew they were both pluses because this is positive, but also, what do I have here? I've plus 24. So I knew I either had to have 2 pluses, because a plus by a plus gives me a plus, or 2 minuses. Now I know that here when I'm looking at this, it's a positive 11x. So I know I want plus 3 plus 8. Well, the two of those multiplied together, plus 3 multiplied by plus 8. Plus 3 by plus 8 gives me plus 24. And plus 3 plus 8, well, that gives me 11x. Okay, or it gives me 11. Now, I would always, just like we did in when we were expanding these brackets, we checked our answers. Here, when we're factorizing our brackets, we're also going to check our answers. And so very quickly, somewhere over here, I would say, well, x plus 3 times x plus 8. Okay, and I would know that x gets multiplied by this x. It also gets multiplied by the outside term. The 3 gets multiplied by the inside term, and then by the last term. So if I was to write that out now, well, following x by x gives me x squared. X by plus 8 gives me plus 8x plus 3 multiplied by x, well, that gives me plus 3x. And plus 3 multiplied by plus 24 plus 8 gives me plus 24. And just tidying it up, I'd have x squared. Here I know 8x plus 3x, well, that gives me plus 11x. And that gives me plus 24. So I know if I check here, is this exactly what I was given at the beginning? It is. So I know I'm correct. So I know I can very clearly say then that here the factors of x squared plus 11x plus 24 are x plus 3 times x plus 8. Okay? So let's take down this example. So pause the video, go back over the steps, see are we clear? Make sure we draw out a blank box here. We'll then write in product, factor, factor, sum. The two factors are of the product, and they have to sum or add together, sum together, to give us that term here in the middle, the variable, the term with the variable beside it. Okay? And we get the factors of the constant. Okay? So let's take that down, and then we're going to do one example together as a learning check. Okay, so I'm going to begin here, and we're looking at example 2 this time. So make sure you write that down as a heading in your copy. This time it says factorize fully x squared plus 6x minus 16. So it's our first time to have one with a minus in it. So here, what am I going to look at here? Well, the product. I want to get the product of minus 16. So that's the first thing that I'm going to write in here. And I want to have at the end plus 6. That's my sum. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the factors of 16, or factors in fact of minus 16. Okay, so that's the first thing that I'm going to have. Well, I know I could have 1 by 16, where maybe 1 is a plus and the other minus. Okay, or 1 minus and the other one plus. I could also have 2 by 8, and again, one would have to be plus and the other minus, or could be the other way around, we could have a minus by a plus. The other factors then of 16, the last ones we have are 4 by 4, and again here I'd say one would be plus and the other minus. So now I want factors that are going to give me plus 6x. So which ones of these can I either sum together to give me 6? Okay, so can 1 and 16, if one is plus and the other is minus, I could have minus 1 plus 16, well, that would give me 15. Or I could have plus 1 minus 16, well, that will give me minus 15. Here, if I have plus 2 minus 8, that would give me minus 6, wouldn't it? But if I had minus 2 plus 8, well, minus 2 back on our number line, minus 2 plus 8, different sign, subtract, 8 take away 2, and keeping the sign of the bigger number, that would give me plus 6. So here I'm just going to write in my 2 and my 8, and again deciding which one do I want to be positive. Well, definitely I want the 8 to be positive, because it's the bigger number. So that means I want the 2 to be negative, okay? Because I know a minus multiplied by a positive gives me a minus, but I also know if I say, well, minus 2 plus 8, different sign, subtract, 8 take away 2 is 6, and I keep the sign of the bigger number, and that gives me the plus down here. Okay, so very simply. And then what do I do to tidy it up, or to finish it off, to factorize fully? All I do is I write out, well, that's going to be x minus 2 in our first bracket, bracket x plus 8, okay? And just like in the last question, I would do a check. And so to check, I would say, well, okay, and so just to do my little check like last time, I would say, well, x minus 2 bracket x plus 8, and I'd always do this just to make sure. So I know that's x gets multiplied by that x also gets multiplied by the 8, the minus 2 by the x, and the minus 2 by the 8. So very quickly, well, x by x is x squared, x here by x here multiplied by 8 gives me plus 8x. Here I have minus 2 multiplied by x, so that gives me minus 2x. And minus 2 lastly multiplied by 8, well, a minus by a positive is a minus, and 2 by 8 is 16. And just tidying that up, I see that I have x squared, well, plus 8x, take away 2x, that gives me plus 6x minus 16. So I know I'm correct. It's exactly what I started off with. So my answer, very quickly over here then, I'll just put a red box around it to show that that's my answer for factorizing fully. Okay? And even here, by doing our check at the end, what can we see? We can see again that factorizing fully is the reverse operation of expanding fully. So that's it. Okay? And one last example for homework. It's just a little learning check. So I'm going to put this one up now. Okay, so for homework, just give this a shot as a learning check. So first of all, you make sure that you what? Draw out your box. Okay? Label which is the product, the sum, and then find two factors that will sum together to give you your term in the middle. Okay? So that's our step. And then at the end, don't forget to put them into brackets. So put into brackets. Okay? So let's give it a go ourselves and see how we get on. But make sure you also have your notes written into your copy. Thank you.